Hey, what is going on, everybody? Any of you actually remember this guy over here? I mean, I honestly forgot that Dormammu even existed. And as we push further and further ahead in Marvel Strike Force, I've almost entirely lost track of my plans for DD5 because it almost feels like it doesn't even matter anymore. Especially after the recent blog post detailing Morgan Le Fay, aka Pestilence, and all of this new content really is kind of overshadowing him even further, which I think part of the problem is being how long it's taking for people to make any meaningful progress in DD5 compared to Dark Dimension 4 previously. So I want to talk about this issue with DD5 comparably and whether or not we should bother caring about it or not. So without further ado, let's get this show started. And part of this was, for me anyways, prompted by this Reddit post here. Now, some of you may have seen it as of recording. Of course, it's about 16 hours ago. There's quite a few upvotes, though. So I kind of want to pivot to this first. and it really got me thinking about, my DD5 plans, what I'm currently doing. Does any of this really matter? So on and so forth. So it's titled here, So What's the Use for Dormammu Now? The Darkhold team seems to counter Eternals and Infinity Watch, actually. I'm pretty sure that the passive for, and we'll take another look at that, the passive for Morgan Le Fay is bonkers. Pretty sure it covers, like, almost every base at this point, and therefore becomes the latest arena meta. Dormammu already had a questionable use, since Eternals are so overpowered and there were ways around him. T'Challa, Kestrel, Black Bolt, etc. And I want to say, obviously, I don't have first-hand experience with using him. I've actually watched very limited videos regarding Dormammu because he was so far away, and he still is, that, like, I almost don't even care. Like, he's not even on the radar. And it's funny because when I cleared Dark Dimension 4, I was actually, I think it was 1800th. To clear Dark Dimension 4, which is okay. It's not terrible. It's not obviously a top score or anything like that. But I did that in April of 2021. So we're at March the 6th. So in like 1 month's time, I don't even think I'm going to be getting halfway to finishing Dark Dimension 5, let alone, clearing it. And so there's a huge skew in comparison to, like, the timeline that it took Dark Dimension 4 and Dark Dimension 5 to be there, considering that they both had characters being unlocked behind them. So, just completely out of this world. But now introducing a completely new arena team makes him completely useless. I'm not going to go as far as saying completely useless. He will be usable in Alliance War. They talk about that here. You're not going to use him in Raids since he's Mystic, and honestly, we don't need him for Raids, obviously, and that would be just crazy anyways. New Warriors and Eternals are so powerful that honestly I could see them being viable for a very long time. I would be hard-pressed to figure out why New Warriors Eternals could not be able to do Doom Raid 3, for example. Like, what characters could possibly be in there that you would not be able to use this team unless they were just flat-out blocked from being used? Like, I don't see that being possible because they're just so incredibly powerful. They blow everything up. Now, Dormammu basically is only useful for war defense now in Blitz, yay, and Dark Dimension, which can be run twice. So you would run him for the second run if you really needed him, but he's a cosmic character, and honestly, with the Eternals and some of the other characters out there, I don't even know if you need him, frankly. And then, yeah, we're not going to comment on RTA. So after grind for probably about a year or more, and honestly, this is fairly accurate. We're coming up on 6 months soon, because he was released in November, and I don't even have, I haven't even started yet. That being said, I could start now if I wanted to, but and we're going to talk about this as well, the characters that I originally was thinking about doing, I'm not sure, because does it even matter? A lot of the content, all the content that we can do in, that exists now with Doom Raid 2, can be done at Gear Tier 15, so I don't need to upgrade my characters to Gear Tier 16 to get it accomplished, and it makes me think, well, maybe I should just be continuing to hoard my Teal gear until I'm absolutely certain, like, Arena meta, Darkhold, or whoever they happen to be, right? Like that team, possibly, because it just seems like, what's the rush to completing Dark Dimension 5? What was the rush before? There wasn't really one anyways, but now it just feels even worse that it's just like, well, I'll clear it when I decide which characters I even want to bother putting my gear into. So that's just the first horseman, right? And who knows how that's going to change down the road. And it just feels like these grand characters, you know, going back to Ultron for Dark Dimension 2, he was meta for quite some time, for like a good year. And from what I understand, it did not take 6 months to even clear Dark Dimension 2. I'm pretty sure. You know, maybe there's some historians out there that know it a little bit better than I do. And Doom, actually, for what it's worth, we were kind of talking about similar things when Doctor Doom came out, but, you know, he did end up coming, you know, back and forth between the meta, and he is a very powerful character in his own right. I think it's because of the dual trait, so maybe, you know, it's unlikely that Dormammu would have had a second trait anyways, a second origin, but had that been the case, maybe that would have, you know, made him more viable, you know, because of that flip-flopping that Doom has in both Mystic and Tech right now in Doom Raid. Dormammu doesn't have that, so it really puts into question the long-term viability of this character as more of than, you know, like a congratulations, you beat Dark Dimension 5, here, stick him on War Defense with a couple of characters, and there you go. So I wanted to draw your attention to this blog post from October 22nd of last year, because that's when they first mentioned Dormammu, and it really kind of just drove that point home for me. I'm like, wow, that was such a long time ago now. That was like 6 months ago when we were even talking about him being released and talking about Dark Dimension 5. Rapidly approaching Dark Dimension 5, and the way they kind of talk about it is kind of funny as well. First time winners, where was it? Actually, I wanted to... and then, of course, there's all this stuff, but there was... where was it specifically? Here. Like, this... Dormammu, when they talk about Dormammu, as previously announced in the second half, you know, completing this monumental challenge. Like, no fucking shit. Like, it is, like, the biggest... I wouldn't say challenge... the biggest fucking gear hoarding grind that I've ever had to do in the history of Marvel Strike Force, so there is that. Unlocking the nefarious Dormammu for your roster, talking about how you get him, of course. And it's just, it's funny the way that they, like, yeah, I don't know. It was just like, if I knew how long that it would take for me to get here, like, I never thought in my wildest dreams that it would actually take this long to get Dormammu. And part of it, I think, is because we entered a new gear tier, sorry, not new gear tier, new gear color, the teal gear, because when Dark Dimension 2 was a thing, you know, and I'm going to pivot to that, because I believe that was gear tier 13, actually, and, you know, it did take longer to get that stuff because it was brand new. But we had Dark Dimension 1, and Dark Dimension 1 did actually reward orange gear, and it allowed us to build up to teal gear before Dark Dimension 5, Dark Dimension 2 came out. In this case, we didn't have a Dark Dimension 1 equivalent for Dark Dimension 5 to build us up to that teal gear, which would be available to us for Dark Dimension 5. So there was a lot of ways that the way that they released the teal gear just did not give us the time to prepare well enough to really sink our teeth into this, because we're still sitting there, you know, waiting to get in some cases, you know, for me, and we're going to talk about my progress on that, and it just feels non-existent, and I don't even want to bother about that. And so, yeah. Poor Remenak, you know, like, actually, it was really amazing that he got that, exclusive as well for Dormammu, but knowing that, like, most of us aren't even going to get a chance to use him before the end of the year, it is frankly just terrible. And so we're not going to go over his kit or anything like that. But it's really funny because if you look at the length, I talked about, you know, how big his kit was in terms of, like, the bullet points. How many bullet points is actually on him that you would need a PhD to read his kit? Now, the passive is really effing long. But, like, let's pivot. I just very quickly, I want to go back to the blog post again about Morgan Le Fay here. And if only I could put it side by side, I probably could. But look how many bullet points are on her kit. And it's literally like Dormammu. It's almost identical. Ultimate, this is 7 bullet points. Her ultimate is, well, including the energy anyways, excluding the energy, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bullet points on her ultimate. Now, her passive is a bit smaller than Dormammu's, but wow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bullet points. Dormammu has a lot himself as well, I'll admit, there's a lot of text here. A lot of it has to do with this stuff, though, which has to do with the allies. If you exclude that, then, or exclude that, you know, it's almost the same. So we're having a new character, a new legendary character, of course, and that's going to be not only better and more viable to Marvel Strike Force's meta, and most likely, I'm going to say easier to get. Easier to get in the sense that, well, you're not stacked behind 20 T16 teal gear characters that you need to get in order to unlock her. But boy, like, it just seems like, why should we care anymore? And yeah, so now I want to kind of go over to, well, the Dark Dimension leaderboards, things like that. So, yeah, like I said, in terms of my Dark Dimension 4 clear time, I was 1852. And that wasn't too bad. Unfortunately, it doesn't tell me exactly how many days it took me to clear that. And that's kind of unfortunate. The timed run, I don't think that's really accurate. Because I think I cleared, if I were to go back on my YouTube channel, and I checked because I did a video on that when I cleared it, was probably in early April of 2021. And so that was approximately 6 months, because it did release in November. So it was about that, yeah. And so next month, where am I going to be for Dark Dimension 5? How many people have cleared this, by the way? I believe, you know, because I think that, well, I don't know why did it stop here? 1900. More people have cleared nodes. Obviously, I'm not there. Why doesn't it show the top 100 anymore? Does it not do that anymore? I thought that you could maybe scale the top. I guess not, but maybe that's just for the time run. Now, this is hilarious here. Why is it loading? Why isn't it loading? What is going on? More people. Okay, here we go. This is what I was trying to find. Dear Lord. I don't know what went on there. So, in terms of the completion, I think there's just over 100. I don't think there's a lot. I think we're talking about under 200 people have cleared this. But we're 5 months in, and that's where we're at. And so it's kind of sad. As far as the timed run goes, we're not even at 100 yet. So that tells me that in terms of where we're at with this, that there probably can't be that many more people than 100 if only 78 have actually cleared the second run. So that's a pretty poor situation that we're in regarding this. And actually, it's fun. Like I said, it was kind of funny that it's telling me that I'm not going to complete it for 52 years and 77 days. I'm going to be dead by then, probably. So it doesn't even matter. Dark Dimension 5 will be cleared when I die. Essentially, it's what it's trying to tell me. So, in terms of me being able to go into Dark Dimension 5, well, those of you may know that I have a Tier 16 Icarus, and that's all I've decided to do right now. And that's because I just don't know with any certainty which characters are going to be useful in my day-to-day, you know, and they may be day-to-day now, but are they going to be day-to-day next patch? You know, am I going to get Pestilence? I don't know. But maybe I should be saving my gear for this possibility that it could be. And so I was thinking, well, in terms of gearing Cersei, because I wanted to do both, frankly, and I realized that they're both Mystic, that I don't know if I'm going to do that. And that's unfortunate now. So in a way, I wish I could rewind time and take my Icarus gear back from him, because that way I could save more of that for some of these Mystic characters that are going to be for Darkhold. So kind of crazy thought that I would even want to take gear away from my Eternals. I honestly didn't think that this team was going to be challenging the arena meta of the Eternals this soon, because the Eternals came out in November when Dark Dimension 5 launched, and so this meta is going to be less than 6 months. Actually, no, maybe it'll be about 6 months by the time her event gets released and people actually have her. So it seems like the arena meta is flipping every 6 months. So don't think that your investment is going to last very long, and actually that might even include Pestilence and Darkhold, because 6 months from that, we might have Apocalypse by that point, and who knows, that's going to be the new arena meta afterwards. So yeah, this is a really tough situation to be in, and really starts to question whether or not any of this even matters. And finally, I want to pull up this spreadsheet. Some of you guys may have seen this already. This is what I call my Dark Dimension 5 character planner, who I'm thinking about taking. Now, these are organized by origin, not by location, and they're organized by what I feel to be some of the best characters in the game. It's also been a way for me to keep track of my own inventory that I update every now and then. So it's, you know, I update all of my origin gear pieces, my minis and all that, just to compare against some of the other characters, how many I have, how many I need for these characters, and, you know, what my thoughts are for this. So, you know, this is not a video about my Dark Dimension 5 planner, but it's just showing that, like, well, I only have one character. There's a lot of Mystics, and this is super saturated now. You know, we're not even talking about when Darkhold gets released, and so it's making me wonder whether or not I should do anything now. I think I'm not going to invest in any of these. I'm not sure if I'm going to actually, like, start Dark Dimension 5 before next patch, because I want to know who's the rest of this team. Are they all going to be Mystic? Who knows? Maybe they won't be. But, you know, there's a good chance that they might be. This is a whole nother separate conversation that we need to have about Mystic gear and the saturation of Mystic, because there's some amazing characters in here on this Mystic list that causes a lot of problems, and you know, oh boy, I don't even know where to start. So we're not going to go in there just now, but like I said, Cersei was number 2 on my list, and now that we know that Morgan Le Fay / Pestilence is coming with a Darkhold, possibly Mystic team, I'm starting to question everything that I was talking about with regards to Dark Dimension 5, and whether or not I'm just going to throw the towel and just hoard. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. What are you all planning on doing with your Dark Dimension 5 and your Teal gear? Are you considering hoarding like I am? Because honestly, I think I'm just going to sit on them. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, why does it matter if I do the first couple of nodes in Dark Dimension 5 when I'm going to get stonewalled because I don't have my city characters ready, or my global characters ready, or whatever, because I'm going to be stonewalled every 5 characters. And so it doesn't, from what I understand, it doesn't actually take all that long to get through there. So it's going to take longer to accumulate the gear than it is to actually clear Dark Dimension 5. So I would want to make sure that the characters that I'm putting the gear in actually matter. And at this stage, I'm not sure I can do that with any confidence. So for me, I'm going to sit back. I'm going to wait until we see what's coming in more detail, and then maybe I'll make some decisions then, or maybe I'll continue to keep hoarding. Let me know what your plans are in the comments down below, and until next time, all stay safe and healthy and sane, because we need that these days, and I'll see y'all later. Boilon signing out.